Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to North Shore Live Cooper's Corner. This is our first program in the new year, January 7th, 2015. Happy New Year to you all. I hope you all had a wonderful time. New Year's Eve. I hope that everything was a pleasant party for you and that you enjoyed them yourselves and that the new year brings us all health, wealth, and prosperity and happiness. Absolutely. We're all entitled to it. We work very diligent at our task to help other people. We advocate for those that cannot care for themselves, and I think we're entitled to a little bit of relaxation and recognition for the work that we do, volunteering for those that are unable to help themselves. So, Happy New Year to you all. We have as our first guest of the new year, Attorney Ken Ditkowsky, and this evening we are going to talk about a case that came out of Florida. It's still in progress, and this is a $2.7 million case that the probate in Florida has devoured practically all of it. And so with the expertise of my famous guest, Ken Ditkowsky is getting quite famous.
Infamous.
No, not infamous. And I'm happy to say so. We're going to put this on because we want everyone to know what's going on. And Glenda is a wonderful, wonderful lady, and this is regarding her husband, Colonel Alan Smith, and he is a veteran, and we're going to get into that with Ken Ditkowsky because he will give you the lay of the land of just what's happening. Not only is he a senior citizen, he is a veteran, and he incurred some physical injury from an accident, and this is the proceedings of what has transpired from that. So without any further ado, please allow me to introduce our first guest for January 2015. I got to get used to that. That's pretty hard to say. Anyway, it took me 12 months to write 2014. Now I have to write 2015. Ken Ditkowsky. So welcome to the program. Do you have warm hands? No, you don't. I have the warm hands. Where's Judy?
I'm becoming old.
So you heard this that I mentioned it because he's a veteran too. Is this the first case that we've run into with veteran and senior citizen?
Well, this is not war related.
No.
He was
All
involved in an automobile accident. He is a veteran, and he's receiving the same runaround that anybody else would get.
But this is in Florida.
This is in Florida.
Okay, it's a Florida case.
Florida, practically every state in the union has the same type of guardianship law. The guardianship law is an infringement on personal liberties, and it comes out of parens patriae because the state wants to protect people who are disabled or elderly and can't take care of themselves. Under the Americans with Disabilities Act, it's called reasonable accommodation, and these laws try to make a reasonable accommodation. The only problem is nobody reads the law, no one cares about the law, no one enforces the law. And there are a group of people across the country now who are organizing and are appealing to the Attorney General of the United States to go in and prosecute somebody. Let's stop this nonsense. Let's make an example out of somebody. And in this case, this Colonel Alan Smith case, we have every single element that we have in the Sykes case or your mother's case or any of the others. They're all the same. They all have the same factors. Now, the basic facts of Colonel Smith's case are that he and Miss Martinez are husband and wife. Now, there's a question as to the legality of their marriage. It's one of the warts that exist. Every one of these cases, there's some type of wart that occurs that allows the corrupt public officials and corrupt judicial officials to get a handle on it. And that's the one that everyone's looking at in this particular case. They lived together for at least a decade. They considered themselves husband and wife. He made a will. She's one of the she's a beneficiary. He set up a trust. He made her the trustee. She has his power of attorney for health care. She has his power of attorney, a durable power of attorney for financial. All of these were totally and completely ignored. The guardian, who was appointed here as a stranger, he's what in Florida people are calling a guardian for profit. He's a professional guardian.
That's his job.
That's
He makes a job like
a job. Guardianship should not be that way. A guardian should be a good-hearted individual who's doing this thing purely on altruistic.
to advocate for the one who has whatever
Right.
difficulties.
And he becomes a fiduciary.
And
he starts off understanding the fact that he is to be judged by the clear light of hindsight. And his job is to facilitate the reasonable accommodation. It's not a money-making job. It's not a cash cow. It's intended to be an accommodation so that if I become incompetent, my guardian would help me so I can enjoy my liberty and my property rights.
all right.
And in every one of these cases, by the way, nobody cares about the law. The law says you have to make a reasonable accommodation. In order to have a reasonable accommodation, you have to somebody examine the person and find out what the disabilities are.
Okay,
And then you focus on those disabilities.
that's reasonable.
The idea here is take over everything, ravage the estate, take and rape it, and destroy the liberty interest, and most of all, isolate the ward from his family.
Oh,
And we have that again.
Yes,
We have that
we've
in this
lived that.
case as
Yes.
well.
yes.
We have stay-away orders issued by a judge. How can you have a reasonable accommodation when you have this? And the expenses are enormous.
Astronomical. I've never seen anything like
So
this.
when they take out Mrs. Smith out of the picture, they can do whatever they want.
She's not the equation anymore.
Now, every one of these statutes has a venue provision. And a venue provision is not an arbitrary situation. It's to meet the parens patriae requirements. Place the person in the position where the reasonable accommodation can be made. That means if I live in Cook County, don't put me in Kane County, in a nursing home in Kane County. Don't put me in a nursing home in DuPage County or Lake. I should be wherever I'm going to be in Cook County, and I should be in the bosom of my family. The first thing they do is avoid that. In this case, Glenda informed me that they placed her husband 50 miles away from them.
50 miles.
I think they're in Broward County, and they placed him in Palm Beach County. Get him away.
Away, yeah.
Get it so that no one can look. Why? Because that way you can drug him and warehouse him
Yeah.
and take his money away.
No one will be the wiser because he'll be there out of sight, out of mind.
That's exactly right. And one of the excuses they used was because of his injury, Mrs. Smith took and moved him periodically to places where he could get the best care.
Sure.
And they told the judge that created an imminent threat of injury.
How so?
You don't need any reason how so. He found an excuse.
You made a comment. What's the reasoning behind the comment?
There is no reason behind it. The comment is they have to have an excuse. The fact is, they found out about this after it was done. No one even bothered. And there were appellate court proceedings, and the court had to reverse part of it because of the fact that they never bothered to notify him of the proceedings, and they proceeded without an attorney. An attorney is mandated in Florida. So the appellate court reviews this, and the appellate court said that the guardian was advocating form without substance. In other words, they were saying, you are a liar.
So.
And since they're doing all this thing under oath, you are a perjurer. And that should disqualify him immediately from any of these positions, because you certainly don't want a person of trust and confidence who's a liar.
A thief.
Well,
a liar.
when you do it with a judicial order,
Legal theft.
it's legal theft. The fact is, there's no authority for doing it, so a felony's been committed.
Okay, sure.
And under 18 U.S.C. 4, I keep mentioning these things. I want to show people I'm
Good.
not incompetent.
Well,
but under that statute,
because they're
these
going to
felonies-
check at some point. I mean, they're going to say, hey, he's following the law. Why can't the others?
These felonies should be reported to the authorities, and this, of course, gets the organized bar all upset because you're reporting corruption in the courts.
Corruption, sure.
And that's how I got in trouble to begin with. So I do it on a daily basis.
Good,
I
good,
report
good.
it. But in the Smith case, they managed to eliminate her, and by eliminating her without any accountings to them, without any.
We're still waiting for a final accounting on my mother's estate.
Well, you're not going to get it. I've talked to the attorney involving the attorney from the bank. Can't think of the bank's name right now, but. He told me it was such a mess. It's the biggest mess he's ever seen.
It's not a mess. They're thieves. They just didn't want to get caught. That's all.
Of course, but they don't. Nobody knows what happened to your mother's.
It's where's the final? The jerk judge, Lynn Kawamoto, the jerk. She fled town as fast as her little broom could carry her, and so she absconded with whatever she could get from the estate.
But in this over here again, we don't have the accountings, and we have.
So how do we know how much was taken from?
We know we start.
Oh.
We know we start. Now, there's an interesting factor that exists in these cases. If I'm a guardian, and I gain...
How do we should explain to the audience, to our viewers, how do you become a guardian? I mean, you just go into a courtroom and say you want to be a guardian?
No, you're appointed by the judge.
All right, how do you get to be appointed? What steps do you take? You have to be in the in group? Is that what it is?
You have to be in the in group.
Okay, you have to be an attorney or not so?
You don't have to, but they're usually attorneys.
Okay, so there are attorneys that want some extra money for whatever they want to play with.
No, they probably can't obtain clients.
And so this
Remember, we're in a recession, and we've been in a recession for quite a while, and there's a lot of pressure on the legal profession. The last people to get paid are the people who are the least necessary, and of course the lawyers are least necessary, so we're the last to get paid. So those that don't have a stable of clients and don't have a stable of clients who pay, they have to find other work. And McDonald's is not really acceptable. So
it's doable.
It's doable, but these people are not going to go to McDonald's. So they're going to go to their friend Judge X and say, Judge, you're appointing people as guardians, consider me. Now, there may be a little extraneous remuneration that exists. There may be some other factors that exist, but that's how it becomes.
So these are attorneys that are low on clientele,
Usually.
And so they go to the judge to ask for favors given and that they would reciprocate with favors given.
Yeah. In Florida, they're professionals.
Sure. Well, up here in Cook County, they're professionals too.
Yeah, well, they're professionals, but ones in Cook County, your favorite, your favorite, that little overweight lady who runs around.
Oh, Miriam Solo. Oh,
She has other work,
she causes other trouble. Yeah.
so she's not 100% a guardian.
She's not 100% period.
Yeah, well, we don't want to get in. We don't want to get into that.
Let's talk about the Smith.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, these professional guardians
Yeah.
come in, and the excuse is that we're getting independent people who do the right thing, and they're trained, they're professional to deal with the problems. That's horse feathers.
Yep.
There's no question that these people are in for the money. Now, there's an interesting factor in here. Mrs. Smith decided she wanted to take her husband out of the
Home.
home.
Yeah.
And the nursing home administrator stopped her.
Why? Why?
Why? Because if he takes it out of the home, the money flow stops. $8,500 or more a month for care disappears. So he wouldn't take her out of there. Now that brings in a tie-in to the nursing home industry, which is under investigation in Florida, here.
Illinois is big time.
You know, that guy Seth Gilman with the hospice.
Yeah.
We read about him being indicted.
Yes.
Now, the fact the administrator is so interested in it indicates the tie-in between this guardianship and it, because the allegations against Mr. Gilman in the hospice situation were kickbacks.
Yeah.
And it's naive to think that that's not occurring in the nursing home business also. So it's very important, and the guardians are a very important source of business for the nursing homes.
They're the go-between.
You bring them in, they can take, in this particular situation, we've reduced a $2.7 million estate down to a couple $100,000. The fees are outrageous. And if you look at the way the fees are supposed to be structured, the fees are supposed to be structured that the guardian can only do something that's necessary to benefit the estate and the ward. And then his fees are judged by the court to be reasonable and necessary. So if the guardian decides he wants to move Colonel Smith from nursing home A to nursing home B,
Yeah.
because he gets a kickback, that doesn't benefit the estate. So he's not entitled to any fees for that. But it's taken. And of course, who's paying it? He's got control of the entire estate. At least constructively.
Well, is there not an overseer? And this is what I'm.
The court.
The court, the corrupt court.
Well, in many of these cases, the court is corrupt.
Well, we've been seeing that in probate.
We've been seeing it all together too often.
Too bad.
And these people are totally immune because of the fact what they have the protection. They have protections from Mr. Larkin and other across the country. There are the lawyer regulation groups that come in, a lawyer complains, and he can expect to have his license suspended or be disbarred. It's a simple situation. If I went out and I stole my client's money, maybe I'd get a year suspension. If I report it to the authorities, I get a 3 or 4 year suspension. This thing with Joanne is almost a joke.
Oh, she's Illinois' most
Dangerous
blogger. Yeah, a blogger.
Yeah.
I could not believe it. She's she's Illinois' most dangerous blogger, and I've never heard of it before. Never.
47 USCA 230 protects the bloggers. It protects them when they take something I send them and put it on it. 320 ILCS 20/4, the reporting of it, is protected, and it specifically says they can't go after you. It's totally ignored.
Why is it totally ignored? The law is there. It went through.
Because Mr. Larkin, the ARDC, and the lawyer disciplinary commissions across the country think they're above the law.
But the law is in black and white in a book. It's bound and it's there.
If you don't read it, it doesn't make any difference.
But if you bring it to their attention, it has to make a difference.
They don't care. They don't care. We have a Constitution.
Oh, they don't care about that.
When I talk to you, and I talk to you on this program, I got a First Amendment right to do so.
Of course you do.
When I write a letter to the Attorney General of the United States, that's protected in the First Amendment.
Sure, I could write
I had a attorney from the ARDC ask me if I was repentant for writing the Attorney General of the United States.
I was there. I can vouch for that.
So it's
ludicrous.
Didn't he read the Constitution?
Now, were those people that sat on that panel, were they attorneys? Do they know?
Two were attorneys.
But do they know what they were saying? Have they any idea? Why would you be repentant to write a letter? Anybody can write a letter to anyone.
That's exactly right. But the point is, nobody in these positions reads the law or cares what it says. The ADA says that with regard to a disabled person, government has to make a reason, or the purveyor of goods or services, in this place the government, has to make a reasonable accommodation. A reasonable accommodation is not to ravage the estate, isolate the person from his total liberty.
Or kill him. Or kill him.
Or kill him, which they ultimately do.
They do, absolutely. I can attest to that.
Now, it also, that act says, and this is 42 U.S.C. 12-203, says that retaliation is punishable. You see the retaliation against Joanne Dennison? You see the retaliation against Mr. Amew?
Yeah, Mr. Amew.
You see the retaliation against me?
Yeah.
Do you see anybody concerned about it?
Well, we keep putting it on the air. People are reading about it. They're very knowledgeable about it. They want to know about it. Maybe so they don't get caught. But at some point, this has got to come to a head. Something has to come about it.
How about the situation of Barbara Stone, another one of these people
Stone,
in
Florida,
where they arrest her, and she's been wearing a monitor.
A monitor, yeah.
For trying to save her mother's life.
And she's also an attorney.
She's an attorney also.
Yeah.
And now they're seeking to disbar her.
So at what point are these corrupt officials from the court, these judges? I mean, on probatesharks.com, I mean, there is a list, it's called a wanted list, of all of these judges and guardians and attorneys that have stolen goods or finances from families. And there it goes, probatesharks.com. There, www.probatesharks.com. Read that, and you'll see the wanted list. And if you have anyone that you feel should be on the wanted list, you can do that too. Everyone looks through that list, Ken. The FBI reads it periodically. Constantly. Washington looks through that. And I'm sure Eric Holder looks through that as well. because a lot of these people that are doing these dastardly deeds are very heavy contributors, very strong contributors to the parties to which they are affiliated.
The dominant party.
Absolutely.
And there's no question that this exists. But you know how many years it took to get Greylord? Operation Greylord. You realize the effort that had to go through to get it? We're dealing with a situation here where the amounts of money in Greylord, I think it was one judge, I can't think of it, he was chief judge of the Chancery Division. He took a $200 bribe.
It's a minuscule.
And how did Judge Lefevre, how much were his bribes? This is big money.
Well,
Look what we have here.
That's minuscule compared to the judges that are taking the monies now.
We don't know how the money is. We don't know. These
Monies
judges
are favors. Monies are favors.
Yeah,
This
that's
is
true. Any benefit that's earned from services is income.
corruption.
And it should be reported on
That's
the
right.
tax returns.
Well, they're not going to report corruption, that's for sure.
No.
They pulled my mother's teeth, they're not going to report that. And
it wasn't even inventoried.
No, I didn't even know she had passed away. And 8 days later, I couldn't even find her to get her. And as far as Colonel Smith is concerned, what happens to his VA pension? What happens to his finances from military?
Well, it costs all this money to give him proper treatment that his guardian's providing him. They had to take and they had to sell his house. The house was it cost him over $1 million, but at the time the Florida market collapsed. So at the collapse of the market, it was worth $700,000. They came up with an appraisal of $800,000, and I believe they got $100 and some thousand proceeds. This is the same thing they did in Sykes. You take the property.
That's
You get a bottom feeder appraisal.
yeah.
Then you tell the court, Judge, we can't get rid of this house. It's a disaster. The judge says, well, what price do you have? Well, I have $138,000. Take it. You need the money. So now this house, they got a house that's worth anywhere between $700,000 and $1 million. And they got it for $100,000. And the person who buys it, of course, is usually a nominee.
Sure. It's a part of the court corruption.
And well, he's part of this particular group. And then ultimately, through a few mean sales, they finally wind up with the house being sold, and then they take the whole thing as a capital gain. And the thing is, the government's been letting him get away with it. They let him get away with it in the receivership cases, and now they're letting him get away with it here. And they take it as a capital gain. It's not capital gains. It's ordinary income. When you steal from somebody or breach a fiduciary relationship, that creates a taxable event of ordinary income, not capital gain. So the government's a party here too. And our government has to come in here. And maybe we have to take the same approach with these people that they took with Al Capone. Al Capone was never sentenced and charged with the crimes he committed. They charged him with income tax evasion.
Income tax evasion.
And we have the same thing here. When this guardian in the
Smith.
in this
Yeah.
Smith case took control and abrogated the power of attorney of Mrs. Martinez or Mrs. Smith and got complete control, at that particular point in time, a taxable event occurred, and he should have filed a tax return, including the $2.7 million, and it should have been reported as ordinary income, and he should pay the tax. And if he didn't pay the tax, he should be prosecuted for tax fraud. Now, if he paid it back, or pays it back, pays it back, and pays it back within the statute of limitations, he can get a deduction for it. So all you have to do is pay it back. There's no, we're not looking for retribution. We're looking for fairness. That's all we ever ask for in these guardianship cases is be fair. do the right thing. It's a very simple thing we're asking for. It's like in the cases of Illinois, we ask for an honest, complete, and comprehensive investigation of the situation. Cynthia Faranga wrote, it's all untrue. And that was the basis of both Joanne and my prosecutions, because we wrote the Attorney General for an honest, complete, comprehensive example of investigation. Now, we're still asking for it, and we're asking for it in these cases in Florida, and this particular Martinez case.
Yeah.
And the Martinez case is important because of the fact here we've separated husband and wife. We've actually come in. This is a new parameter coming in and taking families apart for profit.
Well, let me just interject this for a moment. This is not new, excuse me. This may be new in probate, or that you're first recognizing this, but with children and family services, this is a constant, separating child from parent, from family. And not only...
Here we go on husband and wife.
But this is mother and child, or family and child. And not only do they displace these children away from their families, hundreds of miles, I can tell
But
you.
in many cases, when I was young, I did work for the Juvenile Protective League, and I saw my early case of Ditkowsky for banning the mistreatment of a child. And I did everything I possibly could to separate that child from his parents, because the child was being beaten to a pulp on a daily basis. We took away 3 children from that family because they were mistreating him. We had another case where a lady took him through a blanket over a stove and was trying to burn the apartment down and kill the children. Had to take them away. This is a serious problem.
Of course.
But we have a problem here where all of a sudden we're coming into homes and taking a husband away from a wife and stealing all the family's money.
And the home as well. And the home as well.
And the home as well.
They're dispersing everything. Everything is being...
We have...
And this is in Florida. Are we coming across anything in Illinois like this?
I haven't seen anything in Illinois like this. I've asked the Attorney General in my emails,
Yes.
please, let's make this a test case.
Okay.
Let's go in here. Everything here is there. We have an appellate court decision that illustrates how bad it is. Imagine an appellate court saying something about a court official of the nature of you substituted form for substance. That's about as close to saying you are a blankety liar. But the appellate court does it. Appellate courts are notoriously restrained. Occasionally they act human, but most of the time they're very careful not to hurt anybody's feelings.
Well, the judges in the probate courts seem to always win favor with those openings in the appellate court, and I wonder what that's all about.
Well, in many instances, there are procedural problems that lay people can't handle. And in some instances, since the amount of money is there, it wouldn't surprise me a bit if some of the remuneration wound up in appellate hands.
Sure.
And in cases where there are contested elections and judges have to be elected, it's quite obvious that a few guaranteed votes will help too.
This is a very lucrative business. This isn't going about the rights of people or honesty or integrity. This is going about the lucrative availability of other people's hard work, earned finances, and material items that they have gathered through their life, and they've come to an age where they should be able to enjoy them, and someone has stepped in and said, oh, look, I'm going to take what's yours because I can do it, because I can do it, because those are the words that I'll never forget Morris's Formas said, I can do it. This lady said, why are you acting the way you are? So arrogant. You are arrogant to these senior citizens in this building.
It's because he can do it,
And he said,
does it,
because
and
I
does it.
can.
And he puts an ad in the Jewish newspaper with a picture of him and his wife in the back, telling him how wonderful he is.
No good. No good.
You have so many,
No good.
you know, you have so many problems that do exist, that need help.
Fixing, absolutely.
And the misuse for profit of these problems is reprehensible, and it does exist, and the protection exists. You take healthcare. There was an article that said that the corruption in the state of Illinois costs each citizen $3,008. Healthcare has a 300% fraud surcharge.
Oh,
If you got it down to the normal government fraud percentage, I think it's between 20 or 25%, Obama doesn't need Congress to appropriate any more money. Look at that doctor. It's a doctor in Ocala, Florida, I believe it was, charged $18 million. He's a cardiologist, and he's not qualified to do heart surgery.
what does he do?
I don't know. He put a stent in some lady's leg, and that started the suit. A shunt. It's most of the time they put it in the chest,
Yeah.
and it gets rid of a clot, he put it in the leg, and that he could do, but he managed to get $18 million
From the government?
From the government in fees, Medicare fees for last year. I think he's number 3 or something like that. It was in the Wall Street Journal the other day.
Oh my goodness.
So your health care costs are outrageous. The idea that everybody knows about the $25 aspirin.
The aspirin.
And your friend, Ms. Formas's company, Omnicare, they got fined $150 million.
And
They paid it like I would pay a parking ticket.
And that was just federal, and the state was $5 million. That was
here.
That was here.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But the amounts of money here are enormous. $8,000 a month. I'm told that my figure is low.
It is low. We paid $15,000 for my mother.
And it cost them $1,500. That's a very, very nice profit.
And my mother was bedridden, and we had a sit-down with some staff, and they had the entertainer, or it wasn't a physical therapist, it was Mr. White, and Mr. White what could she do? She could do nothing. She had arthritis, and he was
they're doped up. Every one of this, Colonel Smith. Here you got the same situation again. Here they have him on medications to keep him doped up. That's not only are they paying for these medications, which are unnecessary in many of the instances, and paying double prices, but it turns them into a vegetable, makes it a warehouse type situation.
Until they die.
And ultimately it kills them.
Sure. This guardian that has taken over the finances and everything of the Colonel Smith case, did Mrs. Smith report him?
Oh, of course.
And
Nothing.
we're nothing.
Nothing. She reported in every state agency in sight.
And
the usual situation is first we'll look into it, and then they find it's somebody else's jurisdiction. That's the usual approach. She got the runaround. Everyone, there are dozens of people in Florida. They've all been talking to Dr. Sugar, who set up a blog down there trying to help people, and he's been talking to Greg Coleman, who's the new president of the Florida Bar. And they're trying to put together something to alleviate the situation in Florida.
Where is the social media on this? Where is the
No place.
What do you mean, no place?
No place. Not interested.
This is something that concerns everyone, not just one family, not just the Smith family.
How much publicity have we had in Illinois? This fuels the most corrupt elements of our society.
Those that are supposed to be professionals, the professional thieves, thugs.
These are thugs. These are
a
thugs
thug.
and bullies.
Yeah.
And they figure they're going to get away with it. And so far they have. I don't see the Miami Herald carrying big stories on it. I don't see the Wall Street Journal carrying big stories on it. I don't see the Tribune or the Sun-Times. I don't see anybody carrying.
I think Colonel McCormick would turn over in his grave if he knew what was going on. He wasn't like that.
Maybe. The amounts of money here are incredible. Our governor...
Which one? The one in jail or the one out of jail?
the
one that's going in jail.
The one who's...
Federal jail. That's corruption.
The one who we just elected.
Oh, that one. Are they making a spot
from nursing homes?
Federal, yes, he was
a very substantial amount of money. He, I think, is an investor.
I bet.
And I don't think he's involved in the same sense these other people are there. But you can tell the amounts of money there are. What they claim he made $55 million last year? And
heartbreaking.
How do you make that kind of money? How do you make that kind of money if it isn't there? So it's there. And who's funding it? The government's funding it.
The Guardian. Well, that's where Miriam Solo came in handy, because she bought in cash, probably in pennies, $585,000 in cash. There you go. And bought a home. Bought a home. Who has that money? You have to take out a loan. You have to, take out a mortgage. She paid $585,000 cash of my mother's money, some of my mother's money.
Well, your mother had a $1.5 million estate that went how long?
2 years, maybe.
2 years?
Yeah.
That's $750,000 a year
in
expenses. If you give me $750,000 and force me to spend it, I'm going to have difficulty doing it. Of course, I'm so damn cheap anyway.
And David Martin, who was the other guardian or the GAL for the case, he bought a $1 million mansion in Malibu, while I couldn't get money to bury my mother. And the thug judge, Lynn Kawamoto, who took off for Texas, said that there was no money in the account. But 2 years after Mother's passing, she was still paying David Martin. Don't tell me that there was no money in the account.
That an effort has to be made to get the Attorney General to bring criminal charges
I'll testify.
in these
Put
cases,
me on the stand and I'll testify.
particularly the Sykes case and this case is Martinez case, because these are cases that are provable. Everything is of record. No one can deny these things are going on. How do you justify the things that have occurred?
There is no justification. They're thieves.
Exactly. So there happens to be a whole series of federal statutes. You can start off with 42 U.S.C. 242, which deals with the civil rights.
And they violated that.
They violated. With regard to the theft and the mail fraud, you have the conspiracy statute, 18 U.S.C. 371. The mail fraud is 1340 something, 1341 I think. You have all these statutes They're all available. Bring the lawsuit. If you don't bring the lawsuit, let the Internal Revenue get these people in, and let's prosecute them for the money. $2.7 million, let the guardians and the judge and the rest of them, everybody involved, pay their fair share. They should pay the 100% penalty, the 50% penalty for fraud, and they should pay the 5% per month, up to 30% a month for the interest. That's all fair. That's what would happen. That would happen if you stole money. The government would want that money, would want the taxes. Now let's take these politically.
See, you said the word. You said the word politically. See?
And let's make them pay the taxes. Our government's on the verge of serious financial problems. If we collect this money, they can pay it. If they can't pay it, let them spend some time in jail. They can work it off $1.50 a day.
Hey, I'm all for that. I'm telling you that the suffering that these families go through is no short order. This is monumental. What Glenda Martinez-Smith is going through with her husband, what we went through with my mother, what Gloria Sykes is going through. These are no small feats of...
No, it's no small feat. And just because these people have a ward or two doesn't deprive them of their citizenship. And this is what's basically happened. We have a basic assault on the core value of America occurring right here in River City. There's no question about it. And that's been protected by people like the ARDC. Larkin is probably one of the most horrible people you could find, because he's aiding and abetting and obstructing justice.
He is indeed.
And his counterpart in Ohio, in Arizona, in Colorado.
Yeah.
Well, Florida, we've got a new broom.
Oh, all right.
And
it sweeps clean. Let's do some sweeping.
Well,
okay.
I've written Mr. Coleman. I've asked him. I begged him. Let's get it done. Let's take care of it.
Maybe if he sees this on YouTube, or we send him a DVD.
He's gotten copies of everything.
No, he's gotten copies of paper, but he hasn't gotten pictures of us or statements of us to say who we are, and that, we'd like to put him on the air. We could do that.
Well, certainly I'll write him and ask him if he'd like to be on the air.
That would be wonderful.
If he'd like to be on the air.
Well, it would be wonderful.
The major thing is we're losing, with Holder resigning, we're losing a guy that's a stand-up guy. He was the prosecutor who pushed the Ditkowsky case.
I didn't know that.
And do you realize what he had to go against? The most powerful man in the House. He charged him with stealing $3,000 in stamps. And Holder was a young attorney.
And stamps.
If you want to, John F. Kennedy had that thing, Profiles in Courage.
Yeah.
My first nomination would be Holder. That pales just about anything you've heard to go after someone of that power.
Dan Ditkowsky. That was a big name.
There's a big name, a very powerful name.
Chicago, absolutely.
And Eric Holder did it, and has been getting disrespect. And when you think about that accomplishment, if he does nothing else in his life,
yes,
he's entitled to respect. And
well, you've been writing him.
I've been writing.
I'm waiting for a reply. This is not.
Well, some of
this isn't tiddlywink.
The Seth Gilman case is a reply.
Yeah.
The various cases, the prosecution of the attorney and the doctor in Ocala, Florida, is a reply. They can't do everything, but this is a situation that we have to sell the idea that This is so obscene that it's a cancer that could take over our entire society. The amount of money, especially considering now we're talking universal health care. You now create more and more potential victims.
They're making, they're inventing their own clientele. They're
Yeah.
inventing their own clientele.
This Affordable Care Act is going to make it profitable for every single derelict to have a guardian. And you put them a guardian, put them in a nursing home, and the government will pay for them being warehoused. Take them off from under the bridge, dope them up, and put them in a nursing home. Maybe you won't get 85 apiece, but since it only costs about $1,000, if you get 2,000, it's 100% profit. Where can you find this? How many businesses can you find it? You can't do it in the stock market.
This is sci-fi. This is science fiction. This is not reality.
This is an assault on our core values.
And humanity.
Yeah. Well, you just take away, a person becomes unable to fight their own battles.
No,
You
he
destroy
can't
their
fight
humanity.
he can't fight the battle. He is no longer a human being. He's an object that everyone has a portion of financial gain from.
Quite definitely. And this Smith case opens the door. Every one of these politicians who talk about our heroes in uniform. Well, here's one of the heroes in uniform. What are you doing about it?
Yeah.
Nothing. Talk is cheap. And what we have to see is some of our politicians stand up and say, we have a Constitution that guarantees every citizen of the United States due process of law and fairness.
Due process, yeah.
And we have to have them enforce the law. You don't need any more legislation. Just enforce the law. Provide a reasonable accommodation, not exploitation.
I'm interested in the background of the guardian who has taken over Colonel Alan Smith's case. I'm interested in that guardian's background. Who is he? What is he? Where did he come from? What does he own? What is he worth? What is his lifestyle?
I've got his name here somewhere. I have his name here somewhere, and you can Google his name, and you'll get something from it.
I'm sure that
The guardian is John Kramer.
John Kramer. Is that with a K or with a C?
Cramer. The guardian's attorney is Alan Morris.
And that's out of, is it Broward County? Or
Alan Morris is out of Palm Beach, Florida County.
and Kramer again? He's out of,
It looks like WPB, Florida.
WP.
West Palm Beach.
West Palm Beach, yeah. Well, you know, we can invite them, Mr. Kramer. Let me do that right now. Let me invite Mr. Kramer on the program, or we can have a phone in, or we can tape a program for you, or have you on the air, and let you explain yourself, because this is above and beyond rationale and any kind of reasoning. And I'm sure that Colonel Smith and Mrs. Smith would like a verification of what reality you are providing for him in his life right now. So, Mr. Kramer, you are more than welcome on the program. We're going to send this DVD down to Florida. I hope everybody watches. And we're going to also put it on YouTube, and everyone certainly will watch. And if you'd like to contact me, please feel free. My email is bev.cooperscorner@yahoo.com. And if you'd like to be on the program or you'd like to email me, we'd like to hear any information you might have. I'd like to know how long you've been doing this, and really, what's your background? Where did you come from? How did this happen? Why are you doing this to people and dividing their families? I think the public wants to know, and we'll give you some insight into what's going on here in Illinois, and you can give us some insight what's going on there in Florida. And what did you say his attorney's name was? I'm sorry. In Mr. Kramer's
find
attorney?
that place again over here.
You're more than welcome to have anyone you wish to come with you or talk about the situation. So that would be.
I've lost that.
I've
lost
sure,
that place. I got distracted.
Well,
I was
all right.
reading. I was reading.
I'm sure that Glenda Martinez Smith will be able to give us the information, and we would be happy to have you on the program. It's just talking. That's all it is. There's no argumentative or
Then you're not going to invite me back. Huh?
I certainly will invite you back at every opportunity you afford us.
In my email, I pointed out the fact the appellate court was concerned because the guardian could not serve summons on Mrs. Smith. He said he didn't know where she lived.
Oh, because they sold her home. Maybe
No,
that's why.
No, this was before they sold the home. He didn't know where she lived. She happened to live with this guy.
Oh, he didn't know where
for a decade, and she didn't know where he was.
Didn't know where.
It's that type of situation.
Well,
they get away with the biggest lies that you can possibly imagine. They get away with it, and most of the time it passes by without anything. And this time I think it's the Fourth Circuit in Florida picked it up and pointed it out.
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to have you back again for sure.
I was teasing.
No, this is important, and we're going to send this information down to Mrs. Glenda Martinez Smith and let her on a DVD and let her see this and let Mr. Kramer see this and let the Florida court see this. So please let us know if you are interested in finding out. Contact me at bev.cooperscorner@yahoo.com. So do we have any time left? No time left. Oh dear. Okay. Well, I want to thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Oh, your hands warmed up. Very good. Happy New Year to you.
Thank you.
And to your lovely wife and your beautiful.